All right, I'm going to take this paper. It says finding slope from 2 points and finding an equation of the line from 2 points. I'm just going to fold it in half, so that way I'm just looking at finding slope from 2 points. And I'm also going to fold out my number line because I'm going to be using it for this. Okay, so, and in fact, I'm going to just open my notebook so that that 3 tab is out of the way. So I'm just on a random page for right now. We'll take it down later. But this way I can see my notes and I can also see my number line. All right. So finding slope from 2 points. We just talked about how we know how to find slope from a graph, and we know how to find slope from an equation. But what if we're just given 2 points? And you'll see that this is an interesting issue, especially when we talk about real life situations. So here's a formula for slope. It's delta y over delta x. And here's the thing, this delta, it's a Greek letter. It's called delta. But what it means is it means change. Okay, so this means the change in y over the change in x. Okay, the change in y over the change in x. I think that's a little clearer with the lighting. So this means how much does y change over how much does x change. And it actually is the same as rise or run, because when we talk about on a graph something that rises or changes, what's changing is the y coordinate along this axis, right? That's the rise, and then when we talk about the run, it's what's changing along the x-axis. So this is actually the same as rise over run. So we're going to use it now in sort of a different situation. So example number 1. Find the slope of the line that crosses through the points 5, 2, and negative 10, 5. So remember, we have to talk about the change in y and the change in x. So let's do this. Let's look at it visually in a little bit of a different way. Okay, so we have an x and we have a y, and I'm going to just fill in my 2 points. So here's my first point. I have an x coordinate and a y coordinate, so I'm going to just fill in 5, 2. And then my next point is negative 10, 5. And the reason I did that is just so I could sort of see the change more easily. And you may not need this strategy forever, right? But it's a good one to start with. So the question is, what is the change that happened from the x coordinate to the x coordinate? What is delta x? What is it, right? This is how much did we change from 5 to negative 10. And this, notice I'm using color, I would encourage you to do the same. This is how much did we change from y to y, right? What changed here? What changed here? That's what we're being asked. What's the change in y and what's the change in x from one point to the next? So let's start with the change in x. And I go from 5 to negative 10. So first, I want to ask myself, am I going up or down? Well, let's see. I started at 5, and I'm using a number line. I started at 5, and I ended up all the way down here at negative 10. So first of all, I definitely went down. So my change in x is definitely going to be negative, right? My change in x is definitely going to be negative. How much did I go down? Well, let's see. I went down 5 to 0 and another 10 down to negative 10. So I went down a total of 15. So my change in x is negative 15, right? The amount that x changed to get from 5 to negative 10 is negative 15. And how about the y? The y went from 2 to 5. Well, how much did that change? First, did it go up or down? In order to get from 2 to 5, did I go up or down? Well, this time I went up, so it's going to be positive. And how many units did I go up? 1, 2, 3. So I went up 3 units. So my change in x is negative 15, and my change in y is positive 3. So when I want to write the slope, which is the change in y over the change in x, the change in y was 3, and the change in x was negative 15. So can this be reduced? Yes. Both of these can be divided by 3. I'm going to divide. And what I get is 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And because there was a negative on one of them, my answer is negative. So I put the negative out in front of the fraction. Okay, now, or you can also put it on the rise, but we like it on the top or the middle, not in the bottom. Notice, if these had both been negative, it had been negative and negative, that would be negative divided by negative, which would be positive, right? If they had both been positive, it would have been positive. But the fact that one of them is negative means my answer is negative. So here, the slope of the line that passes through these points is negative 1/5. So if I had like a big graph that went up to 10, I could graph this line and it would have a slope of negative 1/5. I could count the rise over run. How about example number 2? Let's make my table so I can see the change. My first point is 3, 7. And my next point is 3, 2. So first, let's talk about the change in x. How much does x change to get from 3 to 3? It doesn't change, right? So actually, the change in x is 0. And the change in y, to get from 7 to 2, let's see, to get from 7 down to 2, I went down 5. So I went down 5, negative 5. So let's go ahead and write my slope. It's delta y over delta x equals, so change in y was negative 5, change in x was 0. I have negative 5 divided by 0. Okay, now, if you have 0 on the bottom of a fraction, the answer is always, always, always the same. If you have 0 on the bottom of a fraction, the answer is undefined. Okay, there's no such thing as dividing by 0. This is like, oh, I have 5 cookies, and then 0 people are eating them. That doesn't make sense, right? You can't picture 0 people eating 5 cookies. So this is undefined. So the 0 is on the bottom, it's undefined. Now, just a quick note, right? If the 0 is on the top, like if I had 0 over 5, the answer would be 0, right? Because this is like, I have 0 cookies and there's 5 people sharing them. Well, how many do each get? Well, they each get 0. There's no cookies. So that's 0. So 0 over 5 is 0. But then if it switches, and I have 5 over 0, right? The 0 is on the bottom, like here, that's when it equals undefined. Okay? So be careful. 0 on top, it's 0. 0 on the bottom, it's undefined. I'm going to do one last example, and then it's going to be your turn. Now, if you feel like you've got this is a good time to pause the video and try this yourself. In fact, that would be a really good idea because then you get to try it and see me go over it. Here we go. So first point, 0, 5. Next point, 3, negative 7. Start with the change in x. Goes from 0 to 3, so it goes from 0 up 3, so that's plus 3. And then for the y, it goes from 5 to negative 7. This is the change in y. So that starts all the way at 5, all the way up here at 5, and goes to negative 7. So I went down. How much did I go down? Well, I went down to 0, 5 units, and then another 7 down to negative 7. So I went down a total of 12. So I have 3 and negative 12. So delta y over delta x. Delta y is negative 12. Delta x is 3. I have a negative divided by a positive, so my answer is going to be negative. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay, and I'm done. And remember, if these had both been negative, this would have been positive, right? Negative divided by negative would be a positive. Okay, so now it's your turn. So on your classwork, find the problems that say finding slope from 2 points practice, and try those 3.